So we're down here at James Price Point. Bloody beautiful day. So I thought while we're hanging out down here, we may as well film this video. People have been asking to do about it, a 3-month review of the vehicle. So we've been travelling full time around Australia. We've taken it through like all sorts of rugged terrain, everything. We thought we'd do a bit of review and like towing, a lot of towing, so let you know how it goes. So I'm going to start by answering some of the questions people have been wanting to know about this vehicle and how our experience has been. So first one I'm going to talk about is DPF. That's a big one that you see all over the forums. Everyone seems to know nothing about. The dealers don't tell the people when they're buying the vehicle about it or what to expect. So people get this come up and they're like, oh crap, what's happening? My car's breaking down, But all new diesels have DPF systems and it's just normal. And occasionally they can go into limp mode if they don't get regular proper DPF burns. So we had that twice when we first brought the vehicle, how it happened. So you basically just got to pull over and just do a little quick procedure, and then it'll do a manual burn for about 20 minutes, and then you're good to go again. It hasn't happened since we've been on the road. That's because we've been doing longer drives, so it gets plenty of chance to do like a good burn by itself, an automatic burn. So that hasn't been an issue at all since we've been travelling. Yeah, so I think the only time that'd be an issue is you're doing a lot of short city drives and stuff like that. But you just need to make sure that it gets a full burn, at least 1 in every 3 automatic burns that come up on the screen. Because after 3 times, if you don't do that, that's when it goes into the limp mode and you have to do a manual burn. So another question I got asked was how the air conditioning performs. Well, when I first got it, I thought that maybe it was a little bit underpowered. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to cut the 40-degree heat up north. But it's actually been fine, really. It does get a little bit hot sometimes when you're driving directly north, the sun's coming through the windscreen. It can get a little bit hot, but otherwise it keeps it well. It's not like as good as some other cars I've had, but it does the job, so happy with it. Like, I wouldn't think it need, no complaints there, really. Okay, so now we'll talk about the fuel consumption and oil usage. So I had someone ask like if it uses any oil. Well, I checked it just before we got a service. We just had the 25,000k service a few days ago. Checked the oil, it didn't look like it used any. So it may be very minimal oil. Like, it was still pretty much a full dipstick. So I don't think there's any issues there. Don't worry about that. For fuel economy, I'm pretty happy with the fuel economy on this vehicle. Around town driving and just your regular driving with not towing, I'll probably get about between 9 and 10 litres per 100 kilometres, I'd say. About that. We've been doing a lot of towing, and yeah, it only uses an extra 2 or 3 litres per 100 kilometres on towing. So we're getting between 12 to 13 litres per 100 kilometres on average on towing. Some days actually it's been a bit under 12. So I guess that depends on the conditions, like how the air temperature outside, the road conditions, stuff like that. Whether you're going into a headwind or not, but yeah, it's pretty good, really. I sit on about 95 k's an hour in the vehicle, so I put the cruise control on to 95 and let it sit there. I find that seems to be pretty good for fuel economy. Like, any faster it starts to jump up in fuel economy, so it works for me. But actually 95 on these cars with stock tyres, and mine anyway, it's actually 90 k's an hour. I tested it with a GPS. But yeah, pretty happy with the fuel economy. It's great. So while we were speaking about cruise control, I thought I'd mention, someone wanted to know like what mode I like to have the car in when I'm towing. So I find sports mode is the best for sure, because when you put the cruise control on, if you have it in normal or eco, it struggles to hold the speed when you got a bit of weight on, a bit of load on. So like, you'll find you're start going up your hill and it'll sort of start slowing down. You won't hold the speed. But sport mode obviously modifies the throttle mapping, so it gives you a bit more throttle when you're in cruise controls on. So I find if you do that, it'll hold the speed really well. So that's what I normally leave in sport mode all the time, really. Even when I'm off-roading and stuff like that, I'll leave it even in sand, everywhere pretty much. Sport mode I think is the best, because when you're in the sand, you obviously don't want it to drop down a gear too fast, because that's when you get bogged. You want to keep the revs up. So although normally when I'm in the sand, I'll just put I'll just use the manual mode and use the paddle shifters, because I want to kind of keep it in a lower gear. I don't want it to risk it dropping down a gear when you're in soft sand, because it'll just bog down. So yeah. So I thought I'd mention one little issue I just remembered is when this is loaded up, you've got the canopy on, all the stuff in it, and the carrier on the back. You can obviously modify the angle of the tail shaft a bit. It starts to vibrate on takeoff. So first and second gear, the tail shaft will be vibrating a bit. I feel like if I take off slowly, though, it's not too bad. But if I put my foot down, it vibrates a bit. So obviously to fix that, I'd have to get like heavier springs in the back to lift it up a bit so it doesn't sag down, so the tail shaft doesn't come up too high. But I'm not too worried about it because I'm normally the caravan on the back. I'm normally not taking off flat out anyway, so it hasn't really been too much of an issue. But I thought it worth mentioning it. I thought I'd mention, like, at the moment the car's pretty much stock standard, so I've got standard tyres on it, standard suspension, everything's pretty much just stock. I haven't really done anything to it apart from the canopy. I think that's about it really. I haven't really had no other modifications to it, and it seems to be fine. It handles all the terrain well. Like even the stock tyres, I haven't really had any issues with them. Been going through all sorts of beaches and also off-road tracks everywhere. You know, it hasn't really been an issue. I just let the tyres down. You know, if you go soft sand, you just let them down 15 psi. It's fine. Obviously, if you're going to go in really muddy, really slippery tracks, you obviously want to get some mud terrains or all terrains. But 95% of the time, the stuff I've been driving on has been completely fine with stock tyres. So, and suspension too. Like, even though it's a standard ride height, it's been fine. I haven't had any issues with like not enough clearance or nothing. So obviously, if you're going to go do stuff like the Tally track up in Cape York and like some more hectic off-road stuff, then yeah, I'd recommend definitely getting a snorkel. I'd say I don't have a snorkel, so obviously when you get into some deeper water, you definitely don't want to risk seizing your engine, because that's a very good way to lose your vehicle. So, but we don't go any super deep water crossings. So yeah, we've done a few water crossings, you know, where the water's probably been up about a third of the way up the door up here, and hasn't really been an issue. I've had no problems, it goes through fine. But any higher than that, I'd probably recommend getting a snorkel, because wouldn't be good. You wouldn't get water in your engine. Right, and the big one everyone wants to know, like they want to know how reliable it's been, obviously. So we haven't really had any issues with it. Like, just starts every time, super reliable. Like, had no lights come off on the dash other than limp mode a couple of times, so everyone knows that's for DPF. Other than that, there's been completely no issues. There's been all sorts of terrain, heaps of corrugations for hours, water crossings, beaches, everything, and had no issues whatsoever. It's been sweet. Yeah, so I feel like the only little issues we had obviously is just the tail shaft vibration, which is not really an issue to me, doesn't bother me, and it's easily fixed just by a lift. And also the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, that's very finicky. You can sometimes disconnect and connect and stuff. We tried different cables and it doesn't seem to really fix it. So it could be that we need just a genuine cable that might fix it, I don't know, but it's something probably could do with some improvement. Yeah, so another question we got asked was how we go about servicing and maintenance while travelling. Well, obviously you only need to get it serviced every like 10,000 Ks, so it's not that often really. It might be 3 or 4 services as the whole trip around Australia. So what you do is you just kind of estimate, you know, how many thousand Ks to the next biggest town we can get a service, and make sure you kind of book ahead. You know, so we got it serviced here in Broome. We booked ahead by like a week or so just to make sure we could get in, because you don't want to get there and then all of a sudden it's booked out for 2 weeks and you can't get your car serviced. It's kind of annoying. So yeah, otherwise you can't go to the dealers all the time either, so sometimes you might not get your dealer cap price servicing, because like up in here at Broome there's no GWM dealer, so you have to kind of pay a bit more. So our service was about $425, I think. So they did the full rundown on it. There was no issues, like everything was just ticked completely fine. The disc brakes are still 10mm, so that's like almost brand new. The disc brakes are still completely fine. I think it's probably because a lot of the time when I'm going downhill I use the manual, I put in manual mode. So lastly, someone wanted to know about the Canopy and how that's been going. So it's been awesome really. I haven't really had any issues with it. For the price it's great, like it's only $2,200 I paid for it. I actually put it together and sorted it myself. I've got a video as well you can look at showing me put it together. Yeah, it's like a super solid canopy, like, you know, it's all steel, painted steel. It's like really heavy. Like, I've even seen a photo of someone with the same one. They had a car parked on top of it, like, so you can hold a lot of weight and it doesn't break. It's rated to 225 kilos, I think. It's got these racks on the top which are really handy, so you can easily put a rooftop tent or something on it, like that. I've got my solar panel mounted on there. Yeah, so the hinges are like really good and smooth, so like, so you just push this, you switch it, open up, and they're just super smooth and they work well, and it's really easy and open and close. Smooth. So you just gotta, every now and then, just make sure you check these bolts are tight, so they're on the struts, because like I did notice they got a bit loose when I first got them, but they're actually they haven't been getting loose for a while now, so that's good. And obviously you got your like locks, so you can lock them up, so you get heaps of keys with it as well, so you just obviously lock it up with these. So it's got the seal around the inside here, obviously, which keeps the water out on these doors. Same on the back, it's got these little hinges and opens up nice and easy on the struts. Oh, you can see actually one of these looks like it's getting a tiny bit loose, so you just check these every now and then, make sure you tighten them up. Other than that, it's fine. This rear window can sometimes get a little bit of water coming in, but it's basically just like a bit of perspex with some rubber seal around it. But it's nothing to really worry about. It's only a small amount of water when it's really heavy rain. Not too worried about that really. Yeah, so if you are putting one of these canopies in, I recommend getting the tailgate seals as well, because it's mostly sealed around the whole top of it, because you've got those rubber seals in the doors and that, like these rubber seals here. But I've also put a bit of rubber under here, sit on there, and that seals against that. But we don't have the tailgate seals in the back here, so you can get a bit of dust coming through the back of your tailgate here, so it's worth getting those if you want it to be fully sealed up. One thing, this rear tail light, my one seems to be a few of the LEDs aren't working, so I'm not sure, it might be not a very good quality tail light on it. Maybe you can probably replace that with something a bit more reliable. Yeah, so overall I think it's a really good canopy for the price, because considering like a lot of the other ones I looked at were like at least $1,000 more expensive. So it seems to be very solid, heavy duty, you know, like I feel like I could put a rooftop canopy on there and have a few people in there, it's not going to bother it at all. Because I feel like a lot of people seem to get in these rooftop tents and there like be 2 or 3 people in the things, and a lot of the roofs are only rated for like 100 kilos, if that. So at least you know with this thing it's going to be solid and you have no issues with that. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully that answered some of your questions you've been wanting to know. Let us know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like me to know or cover in the future. Let us know if you've had any issues with any of your cannons or how reliable they are in the comments. That'd be good to know. Hopefully you found this informative and helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. You.